Okay, good. Okay, good morning, everyone. We are at Reish Chaf Hey. Siman Reish Chaf Hey, Birkot Hodaat. Under Dine Birkot Shehechiyanu. Okay. Reish Chaf Daled was finished. Yeah, so now in Reish Chaf Hey. Aleph, Seif Aleph. Haro'eh et chavero le'achar 30 yom, omer Shehechiyanu. You haven't seen your friend or a loved one, men, women, family members, all included. You say the bracha Shehechiyanu if you haven't seen them in 30 days. V'yachar 12 chodesh, mevarech mechaya metim. And if it's been 12 months, then you say the bracha mechaya metim. V'hu shechaviv alav harbe v'sameach b'riyato. Has to be somebody that you're very happy to see. Story in Gemara, Brachos Nun Chet. Rav Papa and Rav Huna, Bereid Rav Yeshua, they meet. Rav Chanina, Bereid Rav, they're walking on the street, they bump into each other. So the two rabbis, they see one rabbi, they say, wow, we got to see you, we're so excited. They said two brachos. One is Shechalak Mechochmato L'Reyav, and the other one is Shehechiyanu, because you can do both, if they both apply. But then, the other Rav Chanina turned to them and say, wow, I'm going to see you, I'm going to say 3 brachos. Why? Because, Baruch Chacham Harazim. Because looking at you two is like seeing 600,000 people. So when you see 600,000 people and it's a Klal Yisrael and everyone has great chachma put together, then you got to say that bracha. So those two rabbis were not too impressed. They felt he was saying a bracha levatala. So they gave a little look on him, and unfortunately he passed away. So we have to be a little careful with how we handle brachas. But the point was, well, besides to be careful with brachas levatala, but we see that you could say 2-3 brachos when you see one person, as long as it's applicable. Okay. What happens if a person is in contact with somebody within 30 days or a year, but you haven't seen them? It could be a phone, it could be visual, letters. So, I think it's a pretty fair consensus, l'kul yalma, if it's for the bracha of mechayei meitim, you wait 12 months. If you've been in touch with them at all, then you don't say that bracha. Because that's when you lose touch and it's as if they come back to life again. But for Shehechiyanu, that's more of a machloket. The Mishnah Berurah says not to say a bracha, but I know Rav Avadia Yosef and others say you do say a bracha. So that's a machloket. And what's so special about the 12 months? So the Gemara gives a reason, gives its own reason, because after 12 months, a person starts to forget things from their heart. Out of sight, out of mind, if you lose an object, that's what the Gemara compares it to. So it's as if the object is completely gone, and now it comes back to life. Mishnah Berurah quotes the Chedushei Agados that says because within a 12-month period, it's kind of like a low plug type of thing. Within 12 months, we pass Rosh Hashanah. And every Rosh Hashanah we know a person, his life gets renewed or not. So the fact that you see him after Rosh Hashanah, but it goes by 12 months, then that's the reason why it's either he came back to life or he has another life, another lease for another year. Okay. But let's say you never saw somebody, but you met him through letters, you met him through radio, whatever it is. Just through letters. You don't say the bracha Shehechiyanu when you see him for the first time, because it doesn't have the same impact as if you recognize him and seen him once before. That's how the bracha is nitkan according to the Rishonim. If a person sees him visually through video, good question. Perhaps one would say the bracha. Okay. Haggah. Now I'll just point out, this is mentioned once I think before by the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah holds that when you see your daughter for the first time, you say Shehechiyanu. And so he writes over here too, if you haven't seen your child, whether you heard about your son and you said Hatova Meitiv, or and it's already been 30 days since that passed, and now you see your child for the first time, so the Mishnah Berurah writes, you say, Shehechiyanu mechaya metim. This is a dispute. The Sephardic poskim generally say not to, safek brachot lahakel, but it's a dispute. Okay. Haga, yeshom rimin shenasa beno bar mitzvah. When your son turns bar mitzvah, you say the bracha, Yivarech baruch at Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam b'shem v'malchut shepatrani me'onsho shel zeh. That you got pater from the sins of your child, because it's our obligation to raise our children and to teach them how to behave, and if they misbehave, we get partial credit or discredit for their behavior. Obviously, our chiyuv to always be mechanech our family members and friends never end. Just obviously, we have to be very careful how to do so. Okay, but okay. However, Hagar continues, "V'tov v'varech belo shem v'malchut." Now, this is based on a midrash. It's not in the Gemara, but it is brought down from Chazal. And so the Gra and others, some say you do say the bracha, and it's not such a big deal if you do say it with the Shem Hashem. But the general minhag by most Ashkenazim, and I think all Sfardim, is not to say it b'shem v'malchut. Normally we say it Shabbos morning at Kriyas Torah the first time. It doesn't have to be then. And Rav Yosef points out that there's a custom, just like we do a party for a bar mitzvah on the same day. Everyone says ideally you want to do a party for the bar mitzvah the same day of that day, as a special, like a Yom Tov for him, for the child. It's also considered a Sudas Mitzvah then. It's also considered a Sudas Mitzvah if the child is going to say a Dvar Torah, even if the party is for him later. Rav Ovadia points out that one should also do such a party for a daughter, and the custom is to say this bracha, Baruch Shepatrani, for your daughter at this suda, at her bat mitzvah suda. Okay. Okay. Right. Rav Shlomo Zalman also says, according to the Mishnah Berurah and the Igros Moshe, he do say Shehechiyanu for a daughter. Rav Shlomo Zalman also says not to, and some say the best thing to do is to say it sounds funny, but to say a bracha Shehechiyanu on a fruit or a beged chadash, and I have in mind your daughter. Obviously we know which is more important, just the question is, when is the bracha established for? Okay. Gimel. Haro'eh pri chadash. A person sees a new fruit, mitchadesh mishana l'shana, and it goes from, it's a seasonal fruit. Mevarech Shehechiyanu. Says Shehechiyanu that HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps us alive another year. And the new fruit reminds us of it gives us simcha. And the poskim say that this bracha Shehechiyanu is a reshut, it's not an obligation, but we shouldn't lose this privilege of saying a bracha to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for allowing us to live and enjoy the world another year, or another season. You don't have to eat it to say the bracha. Just when you see the fruit, it could even be attached to the tree. It has nothing to do with eating. It's all about seeing. V'nahagu, the minhag has become shelo levarech ad she'at achila. Assuming you're going to eat it, the minhag is save the bracha for when you eat it. Now, even if you see it, let's say you see it one time, and you forgot to say the bracha, as long as you keep seeing it, you're allowed to say the bracha until you eat it. Once you eat it, you can no longer say the bracha. That's then you lose the complete newness, and then it's too late. And pashtus let's say you're eating an entire bowl of grapes or an entire apple, whatever the bracha is for. As long as you're still involved in eating, then that's called achila rishona. And even if you forgot to say Shehechiyanu on the first bite, you can still say it while you're still eating. But once you finish eating, then it's called a next eating, and then no longer. And ideally, it's not me'akev. Ideally, when you go to eat the fruit, you say the Shehechiyanu first, and then you say the bracha for the food, al eitz usually, or always, and then you eat it. Haga. Most Ashkenazim say the bracha b'priya eitz first, and then Shehechiyanu. So I don't know. Definitely either one is okay. Mishnah Berurah I know mentions you should say Shehechiyanu first. And that would make, why is it more logical to assume that? Again, either one is okay, and it's not considered a hefsek, because Shehechiyanu is really going on seeing. So it becomes a little bit of a hefsek ki'ilu. It's not a real hefsek, but a little bit of a hefsek, because it has nothing to do with eating. That became the minhag, but really has nothing to do with eating. Okay. Hagav. Mi sheberach bishat riyah lo hifsid. Right? It's not so totally okay just when you see it. Ve'en levarech ad shenigmar tashum gidul hapri. You don't wait till you start to see the fruit just budding, just starting to grow on the tree. You wait till it's appropriate to say the proper bracha for it, till it's properly grown. V'imlo berech b'riyah rishona yachol levarech b'riyah shniya. Right? You can. Okay, that we said. You can still see it, even as long as you're still seeing it, it's okay. It doesn't have to be the first time. Dalet. Im berach shehechiyanu. Okay, I don't know what these are. Shirzash, Kashiochal, Gindash, Chozer, Mavarach, Shehechiyanu. So what are these? The Haggah will explain. So even though it's one general, here I'll read the Haggah first. Vehem kishnei minei gudganiyot, shkegon, vain kisho, vekirshin, vechol kayotze bazeh. Okay, the point is, you have two, they're called cherries? Alright, so someone says they're called cherries. What?
Shears.
I don't know.
Shears.
Shears? I don't know. Okay, so anyways, there are two types of fruit.
Shears.
Two types of, it's really one fruit, but they're different. Perhaps like red apples and, or grapes, and then you have, green you have green grapes and apples. So they're very similar, but they're a bit different. They have a little bit of a different taste. They're a little bit different. They taste a little bit differently. So from the Shulchan Aruch, you see that since they're a little bit different, you say a Shehechiyanu from one to another. It's not called the same fruit. And that's the same psak of the Mishnah Berurah. So too with Te'enim, or Agasim, Tapu. Here's all of them that you see is different Shehechiyanu. Just to point out though, how most of the Sephardic poskim, it's brought down in Orach Chaim, Ben Ish Chai, Rav Shaul, Rav Yosef, they all say, Safek Brachos Lahakel, because it's a machloket. Okay, so that's a machloket. Just to point out, Rav Yosef says, even you say a Shehechiyanu on fruit, even though they're more kavim, even though they are grafted. It's still a new fruit, and you still say Shehechiyanu on it. Okay. Okay. Important thing. Let's say you have pitzuchim, you have nuts and dried fruit that go from year to year. So I think most poskim say you do not say Shehechiyanu. Also, if in your locale, your markets, you have fruit that are there all year long, even though it's theoretically seasonal, but in your land, they're always there all the time, then they're not considered new, and it's not noticeable, and we don't say Shehechiyanu. Like Los Angeles. Isam Piskei Tshuva says, let's say you have just a couple boutique markets. He says, you don't look at the boutique couple expensive markets, you go by what's normal. The question is, what happens if you have a place where you have the fruit there all year, but ein adoma what's there all year versus what's seasonal? It's completely obvious in the store that this is no longer being brought in from another country, not based on the price, but they look a little different, they taste a little different. So there, Rav Yosef says you do say Shehechiyanu on those new fruits that come from the locale. I don't know if everybody agrees, but okay. Sorry. Hey. Im berach Shehechiyanu al anavim kishishte yain chadash eno chazer mevarech. Once you say a bracha on grapes, Shehechiyanu, you don't say it on wine. And wine on bottles anyway, you wouldn't say because they're there from year to year, and it's not nikar whatsoever that it's new wine from this year. Vav. Pri she'eno mitchadesh mishana mishana. Fruits that do not grow from year to year.
I'm sorry, so if I own a winery and I make new wine, then I would be making the shana.
Where would you get that?
You're supposed to know. You're supposed to make a bracha. You're supposed to make a Shehechiyanu on the wine.
So
Here, we're not making the Shehechiyanu.
so then I think it goes by if you.
But if I own a winery and I'm making a new batch of wine, so I know that it's new wine. I should be technically making a Shehechiyanu wine.
So if you said it on grapes already, then they say no.
No.
But if you didn't say it on grapes, then you do say it on the wine. That's correct. Vav. Pri she'eno mitchadesh mishana l'shana. Fruit that doesn't, it's not seasonal. Afilu im yesh yamim rabim shelo achal mimenu eno mevarech shehechiyanu. It doesn't matter that you haven't seen it, or that you didn't eat it, you don't say shehechiyanu. Haga. Pri she'mitchadesh dei pa'amim b'shana. Mevarchin alav shehechiyanu. Let's say it's a fruit that has 2 seasons. And I saw in Piskei Teshuvos Lav Davka 2. That's what's normal, 1 or 2. As long as it's been 30 days, as for a new season, then you can say the Shehechiyanu again. Aval she'ein lazman kavua lagidulo, ein mevarchin alav. And right, if it has no particular season, it just grows any time when you plant it, then you don't say Shehechiyanu. He also points out, let's say you're traveling, and you go from one hemisphere to another. So, as long as it's new in that locale, you say Shehechiyanu, as long as it's been 30 days. So if you just travel from place to place every 30 days and it's new for that locale, then you can keep saying.
Would you say Shehechiyanu on watermelon? Because it is seasonal, but it's grows on the ground.
Very good question. I believe you do. I don't know 100%. Generally, on regular vegetables, the minhag is definitely, here, we're about to read it. So vegetables, there we do not say, and the general minhag is not to. Some would say you do on occasion, but I'm pretty sure it's not a question by like melons and watermelon that you would say. But right, Yarach is greens, not vegetables. That's true also. So there is a whole discussion about it. There is a whole discussion on where do you draw the line with vegetables and along those lines. But something like watermelon, I don't think it's a question. Zayin.
I mean, you think you should make
You should definitely say on avatiyach, on watermelon, yeah. Eino mevarech shehechiyanu ala boser ela shevshilu hashkolot hanavim v'chen v'chol pri achar gemaro. You don't say shehechiyanu on the grapes when they're just first starting to grow, but you wait until it's the proper size. Okay? And the Mishnah Berurah quotes the Yerushalmi that really one should try and say a Shehechiyanu whenever possible to show how precious HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Bria, creation is for us. Okay. Next group of brachos. Chet. Haro'eh kushi. The person sees a black person. V'gichor. The hainu shu adom harbeh. So a person who's very red. I'm not sure if that means rednecks or not, but I would assume it means people with a very red complexion. And I don't think they had rednecks in these days in the place of Gemara. V'halav kan the hainu hu lavan harbeh, probably albino. Okay. V'kipeach. And what the hainu should be, so there's a few different perushim in the Rishonim what a kipeach is. Shulchan Aruch uses one, takes one. The hainu shebitnu gadol mitoch ovyav nireh komato mekupachat. Basically, a really large stomach. Some say very, very tall, or perhaps hunched over. V'hananas, a midget. V'hadrakona, the hainu mishu malei yabelet. Also, there's a couple explanations on this. But basically, here, the Shulchan Aruch says you have basically, warts all over your body. With a tuye harosh, shekol sarotav devukot zebazeh. You're born with all of your hair being stuck together. Basically, all of these really unusual types of people that we never see. If these people are common, and we do normally see them, such as black or African American, so then the custom is not to say the bracha on people that we normally see. Right? And you wouldn't say this within 30 days. Right. Okay. Ve'et ha'pil, an elephant, ve'et ha'kof, and a monkey. The Gemara also has the case of a kafuf. Some translate as an owl. Mevarich baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam mishaneh habriot. So on these types of people and animals, such as when you go to the zoo. Rosh Zalman Auerbach says you say this. Those animals are just examples, but you say it on all unusual animals that you don't normally see. Okay, I don't think a zoo constitutes normal. Okay.
It's a place to go see animals.
Right, that's what it's for. It's a place to go see animals. I mean, I heard someone say, for us it's normal, but I don't think it's
normal for them to travel to the zoo.
Right.
It's not normal to...
Right, you don't see them walking around on Luz or in Ramat Beit Shemesh or even in Los Angeles.
Now in India, on the other hand, you see monkeys walking
Right,
around
so,
and your neighbors.
exactly. So it obviously depends where you live. Very good. Tet. Haro'et ha'chiger v'takiteya. Chiger, so you're missing a leg. V'kiteya, you're missing an arm or a hand. V'et ha'suma, blind in both eyes. Mukesh chin, full of boils. Habahakanin, v'humisha menumar v'nukudot dakot. Or your white skin with lots of red dots. Im he mime'e imam. If you were born like this, also mevarech meshane habriot, as you were created like this. V'im mishtane acharka, but if it happened after he was born, he got punished or just something happened, unfortunate. Mevarech dayan ha'emet. V'yesh mi she'omer. The davka, or an accident, something like that happens. So when you see someone like that, you say Baruch dayan ha'emet, and we do see this sometimes. V'yesh mi she'omer, but the custom is to follow this. The davka al mi she'mitzta'er alav. It has to be someone that you care about to say dayan ha'emet. This doesn't go on Meshaneh Habriot. You don't have to care about them, but for Dayan HaEmet, it has to hurt a little bit in your heart. You have to care about them. It's to some level. So that's subjective. Aval al Ovid Kochavim Eino Mevarech. But on a non-Jew, we assume not. The Eino Mevarech, that's just an example. And it's Lav Davka. The Eino Mevarech Ela Pa'am Rishona Shashinui Alav Gadol Ma'od. Now, this is only, certainly going on Meshaneh Habriot, this is only when you see this for the first time in your life. Yesh Omrim, Mishloshim L'Shloshim Yom. It's 30 days to 30 days. That's the Ramah. And Mishnah Berurah says you should say it B'li Shem V'Malchut. Baruch Meshaneh Habriot. That's the Safek Brachos L'Hakal. Okay. Let's go on.
Mishnah Berurah talks about once in a lifetime.
Yeah, the Shulchan Aruch says that. You only say it once in a lifetime.
For what?
When you see somebody really strange. Or is it or for Dayan HaEmet? I'm not sure.
You see an albino and you see a different albino.
So you only see it once in your lifetime, according to the Shulchan Aruch. The Ramah says every 30 days, and the Mishnah Berurah says B'li Shem V'Malchut. Well, that everyone would say. I mean, there's nothing wrong. It's good to say Baruch Meshaneh Habriot. Just maybe don't say it too out loud so you don't insult the person. Yud. Haro'eh ilanot tavot v'riot na'ot. Okay. When a person sees beautiful trees or beautiful animals, it could be a cow, it could be a donkey, anything beautiful that you consider very beautiful. Afilo oved kochavim. It could even be a non-Jew if you bump across and you bump into and see a non-Jew who's exceptionally beautiful. It could be a man or a woman. O behema, or an animal. Omer, not to equate the two. Omer, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shekacha lo be'olamo. That's the bracha. Shekacha lo be'olamo. Ve'eno mevarech aleim elapam rishona v'lo yoter. And this is, you only say it the first time in your life, with the following caveat. Lo aleim v'lo al acherim. Right? You see this more than you see another beautiful person. You don't say it again. Elim kein hayu na'im mehem. Unless the second time you see the beautiful person, the second one's even more beautiful than the first one. Then you would. Okay. Okay. Reish Chavav. It's a short one. Reish Chavav, Seif Aleph. Pirchei ha'ilan, when you hariyotze bimei Nissan, you're going out in the beginning of Nissan, Vera ilanot shemotziot perach, and now you get to see the trees, they're blossoming, they're having flowers. So Omer, Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shelo chiser ba'olamo klum. Hashem didn't leave out anything from His world. Ubarabo briot tovot, beautiful creations. Ve'ilanot tovot lehanot behem b'nei adam. Ve'enu mevarech el ha'pa'am achat b'chol shana v'shana. Right, and God created them for us to use. That's the end of the bracha. And you only say the bracha once a year. And some say b'dafka in especially Al Pi Kabbalah has to be in Nissan, so machloket. But in general, most achronim say b'diavad, you can say it after, even after Nissan. All right. V'im eicha levarech ad achar shegadu aperet lo yavarech ad. So the Shulchan Aruch says once the fruits are fully grown, that's how the Mefarshim say. The poskim, you have up until they're fully grown. Once they're fully grown, you can no longer say the bracha. Some say even if all the flowers are gone and you don't see the flowers anymore, then it's too late. But as long as there's some flowers and as long as it's not fully grown, you can still say the bracha. There is an opinion not to say them if the tree are on more kavim, grafted trees. Because here you're coming to, it's not a Shehechiyanu issue, that's different. Here you're coming to praise God for His beautiful creations, and we manipulated them in a way He didn't want. So that's, again, it's a machloket, but so better to avoid. Some say you have to say the bracha only if there's at least 2 trees, and the more the merrier. But it's allowed to be from one type of tree. If they're all lemons, that's fine. If they're all, if it's all the same tree, the same mean, that's not a problem. It's a bracha also for women to say, even for Sephardic women. Right? There's an issue by women of Asher Kiddishanu for Sephardic, for Sephardim, but that doesn't apply to non-Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu brachot. Mishnah Berurah and others point out it must be a edible, a tree that bears fruit, not that doesn't, and that would include lemons. No, it includes lemons. Lemons have.
I thought we decided lemons are edible.
So they point out it doesn't have to be edible by itself. It has to still be edible. There's even an opinion that says you could even do it on roses, even though you don't eat roses by themselves, but they are added into food, kind of like spices. Some say even this. I would be hesitant, but even on a tree that's just there for smell, some say you're allowed to. Okay, so certainly a blind person, if he can get to a tree and smell it, Ravadia says you should say the bracha because it's a fruit tree. I mean, you can, even though you can't see it, he still benefits on some level. All right, we'll stop here. Have a great Shabbos.